Bethesda just posted some updates around Fallout 76. Not in the sense of new content to play in the game, we get a little bit of that, but large in part it's status updates about the game, about what's going on with the game, some of the issues that just got addressed, that are getting addressed in the future, and overall we got a lot of big responses from Bethesda, as well as some new community initiatives that are coming on the horizon. Right now it looks like we're undergoing what is the biggest ban wave ever, or at least in a very long time for Fallout 76, so I do want to talk about that and what it means and why it isn't as impactful as it may seem at first glance, but also some of the hilarious community reactions to this. If you guys do enjoy the content or want to support the channel, you can leave a like or get subscribed, or alternatively, if you want to support the channel in an extra way, during a month where ad revenue is at a yearly low, you can get 15% off these awesome designs in the merch store using the coupon code BANWAVE. But looking over at Fallout 76, one of the first things to go over is the new hotfix that was recently released by Bethesda, as this actually addressed several very important or vital issues. There's only a couple of things, it wasn't a large-scale update, but the things it did address were pretty impactful. One of the first ones was an invulnerability bug. There's been vulnerability issues with Fallout 76 for a few months now. It was kind of addressed in the last patch, but not fully taken care of. And the reason this became a much larger problem with the most recent update with Update 20 is that while invulnerable, you can stack experience bonuses to much higher effects. Basically making it so once you take down an enemy or even just build something minor at your camp, you'll gain a ton of experience and progress the score system much faster. It was one of the easiest ways to get to level 100. So Bethesda fixed this invulnerability bug and in turn made it so you can no longer stack experience to ridiculous degrees, or at least not as ridiculous. Although one of the interesting things about this, even though there is a big ban wave going on right now, which we'll talk about in a moment, it doesn't seem like anybody who abused this particular exploit and did rush their way to the end of the score system, getting to level 100, has been banned yet. Now perhaps this ban wave is still coming, or I kind of feel like it might just not be, as experience abusing exploits are not something Bethesda has banned for in the past. Many of those high-level accounts, like the ridiculously high-level accounts you could find running around today, abuse the very prevalent experience exploits closer to the game's release. Although on the topic of S.C.O.R.E, there was actually several interesting announcements or responses from Bethesda. The ability to purchase your way through the S.C.O.R.E system was supposed to go live this past Tuesday, as it marked 2 weeks since the S.C.O.R.E system went live in and of itself. But this was delayed for one reason or another. Bethesda announced this on Reddit, they announced it on their official forums with a post. They mentioned how they should have more info in the coming days, so perhaps tomorrow with the Inside the Vault article, but I'm not totally sure why they delayed this. Perhaps it just wasn't working, considering it was just going to be direct revenue for Bethesda, not like if they're really adding in any new content. You have to imagine they will want to get it implemented as quickly as possible. But then we also do have some of the strangeness around the daily challenges and S.C.O.R.E. As I talked about in my last video, when the S.C.O.R.E system released, it was 7 daily challenges each day. But then as the second week kicked off and over this past weekend, people noticed that, oh, all of a sudden there's actually 9 daily challenges now, which makes it so you can get 500 more S.C.O.R.E per day, which is a pretty big upgrade over the length of the entire 10 weeks. Except it seems like this is more so just an added bonus from Bethesda. As things reset this week, it was discovered the number was back down to 7, now it has returned to 9 again, but it has been described by Bethesda how it was just something they were trying out for fun over the weekend, and the current 9 daily challenges will only last until July 20th, at least for the time being. And they refer to these as extra challenges, so it doesn't seem like the 9 daily challenges that we've somewhat become accustomed to will be a permanent addition. Or at least that's my interpretation based off some of the posts they've made around this. Maybe some weeks we'll have 7, other weeks we'll have 8, 9, maybe one time they'll throw out 10 just for the fun of it. But after July 20th, I have to imagine things will pretty regularly return to 7 daily challenges. But one final thing they mentioned in regard to the challenge system is actually the difficulty of the nuclear winter challenges. There's been a lot of pushback or frustration around the fact that there is always one daily challenge involving nuclear winter. Some of these were simple, like use a stim pack, place down your camp 3 times, but other ones were a bit more complicated, like having to revive players 3 times, or having to kill 9 creatures, which would require some to actually play the mode, which is something they weren't really interested in doing. So Bethesda responded to some of this pushback, describing how they're going to reduce the difficulty of some of the nuclear winter future challenges going forward. They don't give any explicit examples of this, I just imagine it'll be an overall mantra, so you no longer will have things like having to revive players because that can be pretty timely. Hypothetically, it could require several matches to get 3 revives unless you're farming it directly. As far as the new challenge today, it is just to kill another player, which is relatively simple, but it does require you to actually play somewhat, so I imagine it'll be a turnoff for some adventure players that just have no interest in Nuclear Winter. Bethesda posted a response around the continuing issue of auto-completing challenges, wherein at some points you'll log on just to notice, oh no, some of my challenges auto-completed and you didn't get any score for them and now you just can't complete those. In the recent hotfix, they added logging tools to try and find out the exact root of this problem. So perhaps they'll be able to detect when this occurs to a player and they could track what the player did beforehand to have potentially caused this and then fix that issue. Definitely seems like a good step in the right direction, but it's been going on for the 2 weeks since the system came out, and there aren't any major updates as far as when a fix is coming out, or even compensating players that did miss out on score as a result of this. In fact, the only real response we've seen around compensating players is that the customer support lacks the tools to do so it wouldn't be happening. That's something they've said in the past, even though they did have the tools to do something, so maybe down the line this could change, but at least for now, all the support tickets I've seen have really yielded nothing. But hopefully this means that now it will get fixed sooner rather than later, since hopefully they'll find the core reason. They mentioned fixing a crashing problem, which is a huge one for me at least. I've been getting a lot of crashes since this most recent update patch 20 went live, and although it's only been a short while since the hotfix, I haven't noticed any new crashes. But then we do have the bigger one with the recent ban wave, which is looking to be one of the, if not the largest, ban wave Bethesda has ever done with Fallout 76. If you're not familiar, in the past week, a new dupe method was discovered related to vendors in Fallout 76. It was extremely widespread, very easy to do. You could do it on all 3 systems. It simply involved trading with that vendor and then switching to a different server using the social menu. But then also this past week, Bethesda started banning people who abused this. As of today, they have 1, patched out this exploit, that's why I was talking about it, and 2, issued an official response around this ban wave, which is actually pretty unique. They mention how we just issued a new wave of account actions against players who choose to abuse a recent duplication exploit that we addressed with a hotfix earlier today. In some cases, these accounts receive suspensions, while the most egregious offenders receive permanent bans from Fallout 76. We continue to take duping and exploit abuse very seriously and strive to address these issues as soon as we possibly can when they pop up. And it seems like although this started on last Thursday, it has been ongoing. And even today, there was another big wave of bans going out, and it's just been periodic. So there's actually quite a bit to unpack around this. Right off the bat, it's really odd how Bethesda is doing suspensions at all. Invariably, there will be accounts that are suspended during this, get unsuspended in the future, and then in all likelihood when a new dupe pops up, they will abuse that yet again. And although at first glance having one of the biggest ban waves ever, especially around a duping related issue, seems like a great thing, it's imperfect, as this ban wave doesn't seem to be an IP ban wave or even a hardware ID ban wave. So what that means is a lot of people, especially those dedicated dupers, will dupe on their main account, trade it to a mule account to actually store the items, but then just the account that was duping gets banned. They still have the other accounts that actually have the duped items. And at least up until this point, I've seen numerous reports of people duping and successfully trading the items away, and those mule accounts are not banned. So it's definitely good that we got this ban wave, but it doesn't really solve much of the problem. If anything, it's probably a lot of the casual dupers that are losing their main accounts and in turn very frustrated as a result of this, which has actually led to some very hilarious or funny responses from the community. Such as this petition titled "Petition to Unban All Accounts and Disallow Further Account Bans from Fallout 76." And the last paragraph really summarizes it. This petition seeks to stop the destructive use of blanket bans and indefinite suspensions over issues Bethesda has neglected to fix and allows to run for lengthy periods of time. This petition also seeks to enforce that Bethesda is dutiful in its maintenance instead of fixing major bugs with band-aid solutions. So although I agree Bethesda has to be better and should be better even in this instance, a good first step would be doing more bans and having more perma-bans, not unbanning dupers. And even further, why would Bethesda care? Like, okay, you dupe in Fallout 76, you get banned, and then Bethesda's like, you know what, we were wrong, we're going to unban you. Do you really think that's going to be a player who's going to dump a bunch of money on that account then? No, that'll probably be one of your worse customers, and if anything, have a way higher likelihood to continue to abuse exploits because they already are kind of on that second chance, so if they lose their account now, it's not a huge deal. They thought they already lost it once. That petition right now has around 700 signatures, and it definitely seems like this ban wave is in the thousands. Among those thousands, there are definitely people saying they were wrongfully banned, and I think Bethesda has definitely done this in the past, so maybe that's a thing. Sometimes the way they detect whether or not you were duping is suspect, to say the very least, but it's really hard to gauge whether or not people are duping genuinely or not, so I can't make that judgment call here. The ban could have 100% accuracy, although I would say that's probably unlikely, but at the same time, I'm sure it's pretty accurate. But at the same time, it is kind of crazy, this whole response. Like, if you're exploiting in a game, duping items, are you shocked you're gonna get banned? Like, they've done duping ban waves in the past. Not like that's totally crazy. Even just after Wastelanders with some of the display case dupes, people got banned for that. So I don't think it should either A, be surprising that there's a ban wave, or even B, that people should get them banned. If you're obviously abusing an exploit, it'll probably lead to a ban. Seems like a safe assumption, not a super shocking outcome there. The fact that some of these are only temporary suspensions is just baffling to me. They have a duping problem, they have an exploiting problem. I don't think that's gonna really serve to help address that. Now, in all fairness, we don't know the criteria for a temporary suspension versus a permanent ban. Maybe when they say egregious offenders, that's actually somewhat light. Like, if someone only duped once, okay, maybe they deserve a temp ban. But depending on where that bar is set, who gets a temp ban versus who gets a perma ban, I feel like it could definitely be misplaced. But also, considering how many people who actively abuse exploits like this do have several accounts and only their main duping account was banned, at least up until this point, although it's definitely a good step in the right direction and more large-scale ban waves are needed, there unfortunately still was a good amount of damage done to the economy because of the accessibility of this dupe. Although also following this hotfix, it seems like some other features got somewhat broken. In particular, if you are using the gauntlet that was added in with Wastelanders, there's this weird rubber banding effect. This video was sent to me, and I will have a link to the full video in the description down below if you want to check it out. And just simply, sometimes while you have this weapon equipped, you'll just be bouncing around almost like you're lagging. This isn't a new issue. It has happened with other weapons, rarely in Fallout 76, but with the gauntlet, it seems like for whatever reason, immediately following this hotfix, it has been way more prevalent. Although fortunately, Bethesda has already responded to this one. And not only this one, but several other lingering issues in the game right now got responses and potential patch dates. They mention how the Nuclear Winter seasonal rewards that aren't supposed to get awarded but are getting awarded. Basically, if you play Nuclear Winter, you are progressing past limited time events that would give you unique rewards. That isn't getting addressed until the next patch, so keep abusing it until patch 21. Bethesda had this nice write-up on VATS issues that have basically been here since Wastelanders. It's mentioned how some folks are going to be unhappy to hear me say this, but I will anyway. We know that VATS currently has multiple issues and we're looking into them. The issues affecting VATS are complicated to address and they're taking time to get fixed. I know that's not ideal, but it's where we're currently at with these bugs. Please know that we are investigating, and if I hear an update on the status, I will let you know. So as far as updates on a fix, they don't really say much, but honestly, I think that was one of the best responses they've given as far as a community concern or issue in a long time. I know for me at least, I would much prefer Bethesda is always just straight up with the community. Like, yeah, we're trying to fix this, but we're struggling. We can't get a fix out, and that's why it's not fixed. Instead of the typical, oh, we'll pass this along, or it should hopefully be fixed at a later date, actually an explanation as to why it's not fixed yet. And I, for one, am much more understanding seeing a response like this rather than either no response or one of the other kind of repeat lines we constantly see from them. So definitely a good job from them. I would love to see more of this type of response in the future. They mentioned how the Scorched Beast Queen crippling issue will be fixed in patch 21. This one's weird to me. According to data mines, the reason the Scorched Beast Queen can no longer be crippled, and this started in Wastelanders, as soon as that update went live, is because the Scorched Beast Queen has a unique perk or ability where it could no longer be crippled. It's literally a no cripple perk. Hypothetically, assuming the data mines are right, the way to fix this is just disable that perk. It's not like there's some super complicated or unexplainable justification behind this one. And then how Adrenaline should be fixed with patch 21, which is something else that was broken with the most recent update to the game. Just recently on the PTS, Meat Week did go live. Meat Week is coming later this summer to Fallout 76's live servers, but it is now active on the PTS. As far as the event itself, it is much of the same. You have primal cuts beforehand, that being every 15 minutes, and it does give you a legendary enemy, and then meat week once every hour on the hour. Those two seem large in part the same. I actually couldn't complete meat week because barely anyone seems to play the PTS, and I just literally couldn't do it with my one person playing with me. And although the event seems to be identical, there are some new rewards. There's going to be a new meat week beer stein. It seems like this is the theme Bethesda's going with, which I really like. Fosnot had a unique beer stein. We know the season system has its own beer stein, and there is a beer stein display case in game right now. There's going to be a new Chally outfit and backpack that you can get. And then lastly, something else you could find in the PTS in the build menu is a new grill, this being a Chally themed grill. And very similar to Fosnot, at least based on the data mines right now, we know that on the Atomic Shop, you're going to be able to get a clean version of this Chally outfit and a different colored version of this grill. So you earn these versions for free in game, but then if you want to pay money, you could get the other one on the Atomic Shop. Oh, and one last thing, also the Tenderizer plan will be earnable from Meat Week this year, which will mean you can get legendary versions of the Tenderizer. And of course, also just craft it yourself generally. But large in part, that's going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you found the video informative. A lot of good stuff from Bethesda, some stuff they still have to improve on, but they are on the way, kinda, I think. If nothing else, the communication and responses we saw in this video are definitely helpful. A lot of this stuff would have been better to come a week ago, but at least it's coming. And at least it's not coming in a still another week from now. As always, again, I thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. But until next time, I hope to see you all later.